China holds the rare earth supply chain by the throat. There is a risk. Anytime China decides so, it can shut us off, which means no more electronics. Today, we explore the danger of the world's reliance on exports of rare earth metals that go into cars, radars, appliances, and so much more. Are we at the mercy of the communist regime? And how do we solve the present danger? Join me and 3 experts to find out. Welcome to China Insider. I'm David Zhang. Things are expensive. Gas prices are through the roof. The price of a second-hand vehicle went up so much in the last 2 years. In 2021, the price of a used car shot up 37%. This is because what powers a car nowadays are important computer chips called semiconductors, and it contains precious metals. And a supply shortage of chips means we pay more for a car. For other products, we may even not be able to buy them in the store. It's even worse to think about what makes up those chips are rare earth metals, and it could all of a sudden stop being supplied by China. That's right, China owns the rare earth business, for many reasons, which I'll get to later. But the most important issue is, the chief rival of the United States is holding on to most of the world's access of rare metals. In turn, it threatens us the ability to produce things and to power our devices, our military, communication, transportation, and so much more. And China's access to rare metals could help Russia to evade sanctions amid the growing prices. Part of the reason is that they control so much of it. According to Professor Rob Person, we need to, quote, watch for evidence of Russian-Chinese collusion to evade sanctions, as it basically amounts to a giant money laundering scheme. And here's how. China currently holds something like 40% to 50% of the global reserve for rare earth. And that's just how much they have in reserve. In reality, when it comes to export, they provide the world 60 to 80% of the global supply. In fact, about 10 years ago, China held 95% of the global rare earth supply. Since then, numbers have gone down. But still, it highlights a problem, regardless what percentage we're speaking of. This is problematic if we think about what happens if China shuts us off, say in a scenario of an actual war over Taiwan or islands in the South China Sea. And this is a danger. These 17 metals with names I can't pronounce are the center of a new type of potential crisis, one we saw just 2 years ago. That's supply chain shortage. To be honest, I don't really have an answer to this question, so I set out to find some from 3 experts. First, I spoke to Chadwick Hagan. He is a financier, entrepreneur, author, and media producer. He has managed businesses and investments in global markets for over 20 years. Chadwick Hagan, thank you so much for joining me on China Insider today.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me.
Can you tell us what happens if, in a scenario that the United States and China go into a full-blown confrontation or some type of a war, what happens to the rare earth export from China?
Sure. So the reason Biden's bringing this up is because it is a security concern, security risk, especially if we go to war with China or we get to the point where the sanctions are so brutal that China's taxing us on certain imports or not allowing us to buy certain products. I don't know if they would necessarily do that with lithium ion and rare earth minerals, but we've yet to see that. The issue is rare earths are essential components for most high-tech items. So if we went to war with China and they decided to cut us off from the supply, there would be a tremendous supply chain issue, and it would cause a lot of hysteria here as far as consumers go and buying, televisions and iPhones and computers.
Then I spoke with Richard Trubeck, who is a chemist and environmental consultant for 25 years. I asked him the same scenario if the US and China went to war. Richard Trubeck, thank you so much for joining me on China Insider.
Hey, it's a pleasure to be here. Thanks for having me.
How would that play out with the United States' future for producing high-tech manufacturing? Would that be affected?
Oh, it would have devastating effects. I mean, just one example, all of the electronics, the high-tech electronics depends on very powerful magnets, and very powerful magnets depend on rare earths. So if there was a conflict where our supply of rare earths got cut off, you basically are saying we're not going to be producing any more of these really powerful magnets that so much electronics depends upon. We're stuck with just exactly what we have, and once we use it, we're done. Same for guidance systems, same for touch screens. It would be a disaster.
Those magnets go into everything today. iPhones, cars, appliances, and much more. Key products like permanent magnets, which are key and integral to the functioning of wind turbines, hybrid vehicles, and other advanced technologies, are also affected. I then asked an author who has done extensive research and thinking into the topic of China and rare earth. Anne Bridges is the author of Rare Metal, and she has worked in various executive positions in tech and communications. She has written extensively on the impact of technology worldwide on freedom and the role of China in America's past, present, and future. Anne Bridges, thank you so much for joining us on China Insider today.
Thank you for having me.
So, Anne, we've been hearing a lot of talks about rare earth being a threat from communist China. Can you explain to us what exactly is this threat?
It really is the monopoly state that China has over minerals and mining, which then leads to basically them being the manufacturing powerhouse that we know that they've developed over the last 20, 30 years. The issue with rare earths is really a broad one of minerals. Now, rare earths you'll often hear are not very rare. They're actually all over the world. That is correct. The issue really is how cost effective it is to pull out these 17 different very unique minerals from a whole pile of dirt. And the reason China has dominated is when they decided to dominate the iron ore, they processed tons and tons and tons of earth. And in the process of separating that and processing it and purifying it, they are able to extract significant quantities that then they can purify, shape into metals, and provide the components for our 21st century high-tech lifestyle. And I'm talking about smartphones, I'm talking about MRI, so medical resonance imaging and medical. We have aerospace, we have defense, we have pretty much everything, batteries, anything that really contributes to smaller, faster, lighter, mobile requires some sort of rare earths. And that is where we are today, that China is the dominant producer, manufacturer of components using those minerals.
And what really happens if China decides that this is going to become part of their war strategy to shut off the export?
Well, they've proven they would do it. They did it to Japan in 2010 when they got into a territorial dispute in one of the seas with a fishing vessel. They have been threatening it for decades, that they are fully aware that they have this power, and it's a soft kind of power. It's economic warfare. So the question is whether or not they can afford to. I believe more and more China has established the know-how and the business infrastructure to at least be able to produce products for their own consumer base. So China has grown a middle class, and they now want these kinds of what quote unquote Western products. I've often pointed out that there is no requirement that China export anything to us. If they just decide, their production of rare earths is what they need for their own citizenry, we are kind of stuck without any source for some of these. So they can do it. They make motions that they will do it. And I think it's really an issue of whether or not it fits the larger political goals for economic and other kind of political negotiations that they'd like to get involved in order to grow their influence around the world.